what kind of diversification should people be looking at with something like gold? Because the entire economy is probably not just going to one day collapse and be over. It's going to be, we're already in the boiling water as the frog right now. So how scared should people be? How much money should they be allocating to something like gold or Bitcoin from dollars? Because the picture of it is very bleak, but I think understanding it is more important than preparing for some gigantic collapse at the end of it. That's my opinion. What do you think?
I think it's a combination, but to the point that you made about looking around and we're revealing the truth. But here's another truth. Everything has a life cycle. And because everything has a life cycle, there are aging patterns that happen, right? So if you can recognize those aging patterns, and you're looking at a repetition of history, which you always are, that's when you really have the ability to move into a position to take advantage of what is most likely to happen. I'm not a financial advisor. So I always use my age as a good example of that because I'm about to be 70 in a couple of weeks. And I have a granddaughter that will turn 10 in March, right? And you're not going to look at me and think, oh, she's going to be 10 soon. You're not going to look at her and go, oh, she's going to be 70 soon. Yeah. Why? Because you recognize the aging pattern. It really is that simple. And government debt-based currencies are absolutely no different. Because when they set up these systems, they want to know how to tax you and get you to volunteer your wealth and your time, your work, and all of that. And corporations want to make more and more and more and more money. And so that means that the workers have to make less and less and less, but people aren't willing to take less, right? You're used to getting $10 and so they say, well, now we're only going to give you $5. You're going to go, no. Yeah. But if they can make that $10 and like $5, they gotcha, right? So I think it's critical that people learn what those patterns look like because we are on the brink of World War III if we're not already in it in cyberspace, and all of these wars and the inflation and the civil rights and the stock market, which should be imploding. I mean, the big seven are on average at something like 36 times earnings when fair value historically is 15, right? They're more than twice as, but that's also another pattern that happens every time because they have to keep the lie alive by getting you into the system. And so what they do is they create that nominal confusion. People marry numbers. So you're seeing these assets go up and up and up and up and up. And you're like, oh, I don't want to miss out. Look at how much money the stock market is making and all of that. But in reality, what happens when they do those revaluations is then it plummets and it does not keep pace with that hyperinflation. And the only difference between inflation and hyperinflation is the speed of that inflation. So the lie is to keep it at that 2% level because what they've discovered is then you don't ask for more money at your work or make any changes in your spending pattern. You keep taking on more and more and more debt. But I got to tell you, Ben, there is a change that's happening that gives me so much hope. And it's coming from the younger generation, which in the US, but also on a global basis, is now tuning in and buying more gold and silver because they realize that whether it's the Chinese dream or the American dream, it's dead. Right? Inflation has robbed so much of the purchasing power that the promises that we were given by the government, the younger generation just cannot do it. And so there's a whole, or they can't see it. They can't see that they'll be able to buy a house, create a business, do all of those things that we were promised, right? And so there is a movement that's going on. And the bricks are a big deal, but it's got to go down to a public level where we have to and are, I believe, taking back our power to control the money. Because whether it's a cryptocurrency, this is a Bitcoin image, right? Which is gold, by the way, which I think is interesting, right? Because they want you to think it's the same as this.
Yeah.
But
it's not, but it's much closer than I think anything we've had so far.
Probably so, but it is intangible. And I think that everybody needs to do what they're comfortable doing. And you asked me about diversification. Yes. Fine. Be diversified. Hold some wealth in the stock market. Hold some wealth in the crypto market. Hold some wealth elsewhere in the bond market. I personally don't, but you've got to do what you're comfortable with. Just make sure that you're appropriately diversified. So if all of this is intangible, you got some tangible assets that are outside of the system.
People just get so caught up in the echo chamber of their modernized time that they are right now. Like, for people to actually communicate that Bitcoin is better than gold, and I've been guilty of this, is really ignoring the fact it's been around since before humans. Like, it's ignoring the length of the amount of time that gold has had its run. And even if gold becomes more used, I think, in a lot of ways for technology, like, that's going to even increase the value even more. So I think that definitely people have got to take a look at gold. And we actually have a link down below for you guys. If you want to check out LynetteZang.com. And can you tell just a little bit about that, what you guys do with people buying gold real quick?
We are a full service buy, sell brokerage house, but what we really do is I've been studying currencies and currency life cycles since 1987. And I developed a pattern, just like we were talking about. I saw these patterns and we developed a strategy based upon those repeatable patterns. Therefore, and it's built in layers. So no matter what is going on, if it's the beginning of this trend cycle, the middle of this trend cycle, or the end of this trend cycle, you are covered. And no matter what other choices you make to properly diversify, because some people don't have any choices in whether or not they can liquidate, say, a 403B is a prime example of that if you're currently contributing, or any other wealth. So we put your goals first. What are you trying to accomplish? And then we match those goals with the product that's going to actually support them for this part of the portfolio. So whether it's sustaining your current standard of living, which means you're leaning more toward barterable, and by the way, silver and gold in any form is monetary at its base and barterable, right? Yeah. So you may have a bunch of sound money without even realizing it if you have sterling silver chopsticks or what have you.
Or if you have a genie from a golden lamp.
Exactly. You have a golden lamp, then that's beautiful because you can cut that up. I mean, I would have no problem at all if I needed to cut a little piece of this up. Or you go with constitutional money that's different sizes. Yeah. But the things that you can accomplish with gold and silver, sound money, is to truly diversify any intangible assets that you hold, sustain a current standard of living, pay off any particularly fixed rate debt within this country, dollars that have no value, so you're basically getting it for free, and then grow your asset base in income producing assets. That's what gold and silver can do for you. I would even argue, and I think everybody needs a foundation of their portfolio always in sound money, no matter what else you do. But this community piece, why you and I are together, it's because we have to come together with whatever. We don't have to agree on everything, but we can still come together to support each other's freedoms and liberties and rights, and make sure that this next iteration has a convertible component in there where we have the ability to pull wealth out of the system, the public does, to hold our governments and our central banks' toes to the fire.
Yeah.
now. We have nothing.
Well, I think I have a confession, Lynette. Are you ready for this? It's a confession. I've never told you this before. I've never bought gold before. So you're going to have to show me how to do it. And maybe I can make a video out of it. It might sound fun. Because I'm right. Cassie, my girlfriend, she's been talking about wanting to get into some precious metals and stuff. And I used to not think, I was like, what's the point? What's the point? I understand the point now. And I understand that definitely having sound money as a part of your portfolio is something you need to have, because I think you touched on something a moment ago that I thought was very important when you were talking about the hope. You said you have the hope for the future because the younger generation, you said the younger generation is interested in gold. And I think some people in the new generation are interested in gold. I think the hope is what we're seeing is that for the first time since probably the mid 60s, people are starting to wake up and get educated on what's really happening. The way I tell my audience is my goal is to increase your financial, political, and historic IQ. I'm also thinking scientific because quantum computing is important too. But I think that people are getting educated now, and you want to know why they're getting educated? Because they're going to Twitter and they're going to YouTube, and they're not going to the mainstream media anymore. So they're not getting the good education at school because the school system is set up to keep us all down, obviously, right? So now when they go home, they're watching YouTube, they're seeing what their friends are talking about, and people are getting involved in some of these political ideas, like even earlier, and starting to understand that, oh my gosh, while I'm still in school, these people that are even here are trying to hold me back. Like, people are understanding that. And so when you look, like, that's the basis of the hope. And then we've got different ways to potentially solve it. Your way is gold. We think crypto is a great future, and blockchain is a great future. We still see value in gold. Other people see other options. The important thing is, though, is it felt like just for years we were only talking to like a little tiny select group. But now people are starting to understand the big picture. And that's why we all got to work together, because we all know that the truth is the best thing is probably a mixture of everything that we're doing. It's not what they're doing now.
Correct. And just to add on to that, the younger people are realizing the lie. They're seeing it because they can't participate.
Right.
What they were told they would be able to participate in. And so there's that discomfort and there's that coming together, right? Because we have to. When I was looking at some stuff the other day, I saw this big sign for people that were protesting in Zimbabwe. And it really moved me so much. You're going to hear me say it a whole lot more because it's true. And the sign said, but what can I do? I'm only one person. It said 7 billion people.
Right. Yes.
I got chills.
Yeah.
Because, we are all in the same community. We don't have to agree on everything. We don't have to approach everything exactly the same way, but we can share our knowledge. We can still come together and create this quiet, peaceful revolution by pulling wealth out of the system and forcing us to have a seat at the table in this new iteration, this new monetary system that they have in mind for us. And that's the hope, is because we can come together and say, nope, not accepting this garbage anymore. And if I'm the one that's representing us sitting at that table, because I don't know who that's going to be, but I'm going to support it to my dying breath. I'm telling you, I'm going to support this. Then it must be convertible. The citizens must have the ability to pull the backing, to pull the wealth out of that system if we don't like what our politicians are doing. And I'm in complete agreement with you on blockchain. Why do we even need all of these representatives? Mm-hmm. Why can't we just the public vote directly with the blockchain using hello?
That's where it's going. That's where it's going for sure. It's just how close is that to reality? And we always know things always take a lot longer than we think that they will.